Hey there, YouTube. Welcome on back to Artichoke Dip. My name is Rob, solo tabletop gamer. And in this video, I'm going to get into, it's not a recent game system. It's actually been out for over a year now. I think we may be even bridging 2 years at this point. I would have to look at the copyright in the book, and I just don't feel as if it's that important at this point, so we're not even going to go there. But before we get into the video, if you like the video, click the like content. It's going to bring more gaming content to you, and it also lets me know you like the content. And of course, I'm not like your average YouTuber. I'm not going to upload every single day. So it may be beneficial for you to click the subscribe button and the bell icon, so when I do upload, you're going to get a notification so you do not miss a video. So let's dive into RPG systems. I mean, the elephant's in the room. Wizards is melting down. People are looking for new game systems out there and different avenues to go. I can speak for my channel. I can Don, the solo RPG guy, me, myself, and Die. You also have geek gamers out there. You know, all of us have something in common. All of us have talked about various other RPG systems that are out there to be able to be enjoyed, and there's just not one, just one RPG system as far as D&D goes. And this is a system that I had picked up, and when I did get it, I did make characters. I ran through a small one-shot session off of it to be able to get the mechanics underneath my belt, get a feel for the game, and I walked away kind of like, And then I put the book down. I had moved on to other things, and I have recently come back to it. And after putting it down and allowing myself time to really digest it and reevaluate it, figured out it's an excellent game system. Now, what game system am I talking about, you may be asking me? It's very simple. It's this one right here, Nibiru. So I view Nibiru as the Rush. Rock band Rush RPGs. And the reason why I say that is if you talk to people, you're going to get two different opinions on Rush. And it's either, people love them or they hate them. There's like no in between with Rush. It's the same thing with Nibiru. Nibiru is the same way. You have people who love it, and then you just have people that hate it. But why is that? And why is Nibiru actually a good system for solitaire play? And let's jump into that and talk about that. So one of the reasons why a lot of people don't like Nibiru is for the fact that when your character starts out, your character knows nothing about themselves. And as they progress through the story and after several sessions, you begin to regain memories of your former self and begin to put the pieces of the puzzle together of the mystery, which is a lot different compared to other RPG systems that we enjoy, particularly if you're playing D&D, if you're playing, I'm going to throw out there one of my favorites, Swords and Wizardry or Castles and Crusades, or if you're playing sci-fi such as Traveler, to name one, Stars Without Numbers, any of those type of games. 5 Parsecs from Home, it's another one. Forbidden Lands, I'm going to go off for a while. All of these games have something in common, and the common thread between them is when you sit down to play, whether you're in a group or you're playing solitaire, you already have a pre-notion, a pretty good idea of what you're getting into. You don't know the story. You don't know who the antagonist is yet, the protagonist, any of that, all them story points that go into an RPG, but you already have a pretty good conception of game flow and how it's going to go. You can pretty much guess if you're playing in a fantasy setting, either you're going to be out in the wilderness, you may even start in a tavern and eventually end up in a dungeon. And if you're playing a sci-fi, you may start, well, kind of similar to the fantasy world, but it may be in we'll say a bar type setting like we saw in Star Wars, eventually leading to a starship and then traveling the cosmos to go to your next destination point for the great payoff. And you can see what I mean. Just those are generic examples, but I think they pretty much generally cover, the game system. Not the game system, but I should say the overall feel of the game session. So where is Nibiru different? Well, Nibiru is different, and what I think it's good for solo play is for the fact that you don't know. As the player, you don't know much about your character. And as you progress, you learn more. You start putting the pieces of the puzzle together. And at the same time, this is all taking place on this massive, massive spacecraft that is endless to your character's perspective. It's an entire world unto itself, and they're wandering around trying to figure out what is this, what's going on? Why is this here? But that's the beauty of Nibiru unto itself, for the fact that there is so much obscurity. It leaves a lot of room for you to be able to do what you want with it, add what you want, and take the story into your own direction that you want to go. Now, a concept I was thinking about as I went to go pick up the groceries today, and I was refreshing myself on the rule sets, and as I was waiting for my groceries to come out, I was reading through the book, and coming back to this, I have more ideas. And the thing was, well, it doesn't say anything in this rule set that you have to originate on this spacecraft. There's nothing in there about that. The only thing it says is that we're all humans. So if it's a sci-fi, it's based on this station that, well, basically we don't know where we're at. Your characters have no idea how, the scope of how large this vessel is. And they're trying to put the pieces of the puzzle back together to figure out how they got here. This could open up into an avenue of, well, something we more so see in pulp culture, and that has dominated movies, stories, so on and so forth. And going back to the whole entire notion, whatever happens to them people that are supposedly abducted by those people from the outer realms of space to never be heard nor seen from again. And if it's just Earth, how many other worlds out there could there possibly be humans like us that are experiencing the same mystery, not knowing where these people are going? And once these people at that point regain their consciousness, we'll say, and are trying to find their bearings, is where your character starts to figure out, how did I get here? Who am I? What is this place? More importantly, how in the hell do I get home? This is what I mean is the beauty for solo play. And looking at Nibiru, it's there's more possibilities in this than I think a lot of people give credit to it. And the reason why I say that is, this, in my opinion, is a great storytelling RPG system to itself. It's basically giving you the tools to describe the basics of what both the game master, but don't have a game master, I'll be the solo player through this, and the players. Here's the basic outline of the world, what you can expect to see. Here's the parameters you're operating in. Everything else is left up to you, which is great, because the way that the system is written for itself really can be taken in so many different avenues that you're not railroaded into a story narrative. It's mystery. It's left up to you. The other unique thing that they bring up in there, and they suggest that the way that the game flow can go, which even makes it more interesting, particularly if it's not a game system that you may want to devote several game sessions to a campaign. Now, the reason why I say that, I'm a huge nut for campaign settings. As a matter of fact, the one I currently started, and I got a lot of RPG systems, let me get that out there. I will purchase them, and then when I get them, I will thumb through the books, I'll look at it and be like, this is cool, and then I will set it aside because I'm currently into something else. And then it may be months, it could be a year down the road that at that point I go back, I pick it up, and then I get into it. And, well, no different with my fantasy gaming. So about a year ago, I had ran across this on eBay, and it was too good of a price to pass up. As a matter of fact, I could not believe the price, and I had to double check it and look at it over and over, thinking it was a typo, and it wasn't, and it was the complete set. And I had picked up something I have wanted since I was a kid, and that's this box set right here for the 2nd edition AD&D, and it was the Ravenloft campaign setting. So the Ravenloft campaign setting, I have that set up. I got an anticipation because of all the areas in there. I'm going to be playing that for a while. I'm going to be coming back session after session, and if it's a total party kill or however it works, we'll end the campaign, or if it just keeps going on, I could be playing in that for quite a long time. Nibiru is different. Nibiru is set up underneath the direction that they suggest is it should be like a television series. Each episode you learn a little bit more about the characters, or the characters learn a little bit more about themselves, and they suggest maybe you should try leaving it off on a mystery cliffhanger or an action cliffhanger, and then pick up on your next gaming session. Now, I think for solo play, the action cliffhanger, it could be used, definitely, depending on your gaming taste, but I think, in my opinion, I couldn't leave it off on an action sequence. I would have to fulfill that action sequence to the end. But a mystery cliffhanger would be a good one, because your next game session would be taken into a completely different avenue from where you started, piquing your interest more and more. Now that you have a basic idea of the overall scope of Nibiru, the game mechanics of Nibiru, which I want to talk about next, it's not a D20 system. It's not a D6 system. It's a D4 system. It's a very simple system to really wrap your mind around and be able to use. Utilizing the D4, you're going to roll a dice pool. And at certain points of the game, as you roll these dice, if you come across the 4, which is a success, because it's not strictly a success failure type of dice mechanic, but when it comes to regaining memories, it is. So if any point you roll your dice pool and you come up with a 4, you have a memory. Your character regains a memory, and they have, of course, pre-selected charts in there that you can choose from for your character. But if you're soloing and it doesn't really fit into the story that you are currently wanting to play, you can always add your own memories in there to detail it to that story. But the other dice mechanic is the roll-off between whether you're in an encounter and an action sequence, you're facing off with another character or NPC. So at that point, you're going to roll 3d4 and add then everything up, and the highest number wins, which is fair enough. It's very simple, and it can be very, very easy for solo play. But it is one of them games that is different. It thinks out of the box. It goes out of the realm of your comfort zone of what you would expect to see from tabletop RPGs, right? Where, like I said earlier in the video, well, you already have, pretty good idea of what you're going to expect getting into this RPG, unless you're just new to RPGs and you never played an RPG. Then, well, the only thing I can say to you there is buckle up, because you're in for a ride. But of course, I know the majority of people that watch the videos are seasoned players, so they, I think, can understand what I'm saying. In Nibiru, removing all them stops, you're not going to have that. I think Nibiru will be one of those games that will have a very tight niche, small following to it that are really going to like it. But I think for the most part, the vast majority of gamers out there, this is going to pass by without them even knowing in its existence. It is a unique system, and if you get a chance to find a copy of this at a, you know, for what, if you can afford to, you know, pick it up at that point, because I know everybody's situation is different, and when it comes to gaming hobbies, some people may, well, they may like one particular genre of gaming and they don't ever want to deviate away from that. But I can say Nibiru is, it's interesting. It's an interesting concept. It's an interesting set of rules. It breaks the template of what we have come to expect out of an RPG and turns it on its head, but that's good. That is actually a good thing. And you may be thinking to yourself, saying, why would you say that? It gives you a different perspective. It gives you a different idea of what is possible and how you can use RPGs in different ways, where you don't always have to feel as if you are bound to be able to play this character this particular way every single time with every single session you go through. This is gonna, you know, really change things up for you. And if you think about it, I mean, it's an interesting concept to think about that, whether you're playing in a group or solitaire. I mean, you made your character. You really don't know who your character is yet. You have no idea. And you yourself are not going to learn until you put a few game sessions in and you start to put the pieces of the puzzle together yourself. But while all this is happening, you are exploring this greater, larger world. Now, the unique thing is they really break it down and explain to you the entire scope of what Nibiru is, from well-populated cities that are handcrafted, if you will, for perfect human survival, where it's the perfect temperature, air current, there's plenty of food, there's plenty of water, and for most part, why would people want to leave that? Because they have all their comforts met. To where outside of these areas, it's cold, dark, and barren. And on top of that, you have a wide array of mechanisms, mechanical objects, artificial intelligence, and other things that are going on behind the scenes on this large vessel that seems to go on forever, to be able to keep you interested, get you into trouble, or what have you. What an RPG system has to offer can take you down them roads. Now, Nibiru is I've explained the basic concept of Nibiru, the basic concept of dice mechanics. Character generation is very simple. It's not difficult. The character sheet, as a matter of fact, is just one sheet. You can find it in the back of the book, and there's really not that whole lot to it. It's very simple game system to wrap your mind around, which I like. I do like that, especially for solitaire. If you're playing a solitaire game, you don't want a game system that is so crunchy, that has so many rules, that it's taking you away from the game, and now you're having to rules reference. Whereas games that are very simple, you stay in the game and the game moves forward seamlessly and you have more fun. The other thing that I like about Nibiru and just the publishing and the overall way that the book has been set up, the amount of detail that has been put into not only the art, but the other interesting thing that I really do like is the fact that it's a very high quality printing. And like we see today with some RPG systems out there, you get some of these books and the pages are glued in, and after several uses of opening and closing the book, your pages begin to fall out. And after you've spent your money on this book, that's a very frustrating thing to deal with, particularly if you're a book snob like me. I should say a book snob. I don't book snob, is that even? We'll go with book snob. Where I really love books. I love particularly this one right here, to look at how it almost looks like it has a leather finish on it, when in fact I know it's not leather. As a matter of fact, it's just cardboard, but nevertheless, it's a beautiful book unto itself. Now this is made by Modius, Modivius right there, which I have a couple of their stuff that I have not get into, other printings of theirs. A couple I will show you. And of course the one for fantasy. Now I have not gotten fully in, my introduction to Modius is through Nibiru. I have not fully got into the Modius systems yet. I have purchased the books, they are sitting back here, and this is my to get to pile. And well, fair enough. I think if I get a lot of gaming content, so it takes me a while to get through one system to the other. But anyways, the two other systems that I picked up through them, and the same thing, the quality of the books and content and everything I see. The first one is Conan, and then the second one, of course, is Dune, the RPG system. So these are both going to be future RPG systems that I'm going to get into, and I will be playing, but it's when I finish currently with what I am playing. Now, the reason why I'm bringing up Nibiru is I started the Ravenloft, and understanding how the campaign systems work and how it's designed to offer you a large amount of basically game time inside of a vast world. That's going to be one that I'm going to be in for probably a while. Like I said, unless it's a total party kill, and then, well, at that point, moving on to something else. Whereas if Nibiru, the way that it's set up, is I can play a game session, put down the notes, set it aside, and then I can come back to it, and I can play another game session. But I'm not gonna have this feeling like if I don't keep up with this, I may forget about this or I may forget about that. And it may change the dynamic of the game. In Nibiru, that's okay, because that's the intent, that's the design behind the game. Everything is supposed to change. Nothing's really supposed to make sense, and it's all supposed to be a bit blurry. So those of you out there that are looking for alternatives, if you're playing 5e currently and you're pretty much disgusted by what you see, I imagine, and if you're an OSR player, you as well, I know, is probably pretty well disgusted by what you see currently coming out, and you may be looking for different publishers or game systems out there to change things up, to, you know, get away from, I should say, that name D&D. There are other publishers out there to consider and to think about. Mobius is one of them. Free League Publishing is another. Don't forget about Frog God Games or, of course, True Lord Games. They're all great publishers. They all put out a great amount of content and is worth your time to looking into. But for right now, to keep things on track of the topic, Nibiru. So, Nibiru. That's, I'm intrigued. That's all I can say. I'm really intrigued because my first, like I said, initial thoughts on this was, I don't know. I don't really know. But now coming back to it, I'm like, this is it. This is good. This is interesting. This is completely different from what I'm used to. And that's what I have been looking for. And the whole time it was here in my library. Now, with that being said, my friends, you know, these are my thoughts and, well, not yours. I'm just merely putting suggestions out there to, you know, maybe inform you that there's other systems out there that, well, may be worth looking into. Maybe you might be finding the current system you're playing to become a little stale. Because let's face it, I don't care if you're playing in a large group setting. I don't care if you're a solitaire player. Hell, I don't even care if you're a strictly electronic video game player and you are watching this. I'm going to tell you that after a while, a game system becomes stale. You kind of just get burned out on it. You want something different. You're just maybe sick of the world and you're looking for a new concept, a new idea. Maybe you're just tired of the character class or a class that's unique to one, you know, your D20 systems or archetype or type or whatever system you're playing. It's all the same. I'll just use class. Doesn't matter. Maybe you're just getting burned out on that particular class and you want to try something different, something new, something, you know, that will break away from the chains of the norm, we'll say. There are other systems out there, and Nibiru is a really good one. It's really, really good. Now, like I said, my initial thoughts on this system was, what? But that was the beauty of it, because it was so different at first. It was out of my realm of, I should say, thinking as a gamer, if that makes sense. Like I explained earlier, how we just come to expect certain things of certain game systems, a certain game flow, a certain, you get what I'm saying, a certain amount of balance in the game, where Nibiru doesn't have any of that. It's, and now I'm not saying game flow balance, because Nibiru, of course, does have that built in there, but as far as game flow, well, game flow is very uncertain because you just don't know yet, and you don't learn until you go along. And I'm going to say once again, for a solitaire player, that is a very, very good concept to have, because we are always trying to find ways to keep things as a surprise and not ruin them surprises for us, right? That's why we use emulators. That's why we have these different systems and randomized tables and things like that that we utilize to be able to keep the game interesting, suspenseful, and new. But if you already have a game system that has that built into its root foundation, and you have your emulators, well, You have quite a mystery on your hands, don't you? Yeah. All right, my friends. It was my thought, not yours, as I explained. Let me know in the comments below if you tried Nibiru, if you liked it, if you hated it, and why so. Or if you're just on the fence and maybe you're not certain as to whether you should try it or not. Your comments will greatly help others out there. And, maybe I'll learn something from you guys that I didn't previously know and give me a different perspective on it. All right, my friends, this is where I'm going to round the video out. And of course, once again, feel free to click like and subscribe. You know the drill. I explained it in the beginning of the video. And with that being said, this is Artichoke Dip, signing off.